Lists aren't just a way to recommend movies you love. They are serious, eternal, objective, and immutable. And this year, the movies were good, despite everything. So I've cooked up a tasty little batch of recommendations. Let's let them cool down and then we can tuck in. But first, a list that nobody really wants to be on. In no particular order, my honourable mentions for the year go to The Souvenir Part 2, West Side Story, Licorice Pizza, The Rescue, The French Dispatch, Red Rocket, Annette, and The Green Knight. All of which are great, but, absolutely embarrassing hot garbage compared to these next 10. So kicking us off at number 10, we have Phil Tippett's Mad God. Filmed over a 30-year period, this stop-motion animation follows an assassin exploring a labyrinth of bizarre landscapes inhabited by grotesque creatures. Phil Tippett is probably best known for his creature designs and practical effects in films like Star Wars, Jurassic Park, RoboCop. However, this is a film that he has written, produced, and directed himself. There's no big studio attached. It was funded on Kickstarter and released independently as just a pure passion project. And yeah, it's pretty fucking horrible. 84 long minutes of descending into this surreal, trippy, itchy, maggot-infested hellscape. And knowing it took 30 years to make is all the more unsettling. It's not just a grumpy slice of cynicism. He really had to live and experience this world for just under half his life. And now, at the age of 70, has released his own personal nightmare into the world. It's genuinely quite haunting. The kind of movie you'd almost expect to find on a VHS under the floorboards of an abandoned building. I was glued to it. Very horrible, very effective. Next up, at number 9, The Reason I Jump. Based on the book by Naoki Higashida, this documentary explores experiences of non-speaking autistic people around the world. The Reason I Jump is just pure cinematic empathy. It takes this incredibly immersive approach to its filmmaking, creating this audio-visual sensory treat that felt both thematically relevant and utterly transporting. But I think more than anything, I just had a very personal, emotional reaction to it. Albeit a spectrum, the subject matter hit close to home. It felt very gratifying and cathartic to hear these stories, and I was honestly really moved by the experience. A thoughtful, understanding, authentic little film. I highly recommend watching it on the biggest screen and best audio setup you can. Okay, that is one animation, one documentary. How about an animated documentary? At number 8, we have Flea. Flea follows the true story of a man under the alias Amin who shares his hidden past of fleeing his home country of Afghanistan to Denmark as a refugee. This one really hit me hard. Animated primarily to protect his identity, this was one of the most visually unique and emotionally gut-wrenching films of the year, depicting with real intimacy the harrowing realities of both his external and internal journey. It was a difficult but very necessary watch. Bong Joon-ho described Flea as the most moving piece of cinema he'd seen this year, writing, "Most of us have only encountered refugees through a few fleeting seconds of footage we see in news reports, only in context of politics, only as faceless masses displaced from their homes. The film grips you by showing with great detail and nuance how an individual's soul is battered and destroyed throughout the process. A beautiful, painful film, full to the brim with humanity. I loved it." Okay, on to number 7, Jane Campion's The Power of the Dog. In 1925 Montana, 2 wealthy ranch-owning brothers meet a widow during a cattle drive. One is quickly taken with her, but the other questions her motivations, believing she only wants their money. He also takes a particular disliking to her teenage son, who he derides as weak and effeminate. This is Jane Campion in full swing, using every component of her filmmaking to unwind this slow, atmospheric, twisted tale. Easily some of the most impressive directing I've seen all year. And my god, Benedict Cumberbatch, I think I've just gotten so used to seeing him as Doctor Strange that it was quite refreshing to be reminded just how good of an actor he is. I was totally captivated by him. And that extends to the entire cast, the cinematography, Johnny Greenwood's beautiful score. Everything came together so masterfully. It's a film that treats its audience with respect and truly rewards those paying attention. A smart, horrible, transporting film. Of all the Best Picture candidates, it would certainly get my vote. Also, good year for Johnny Greenwood scores. At number 6, Spencer. During her Christmas holidays with the royal family at Sandringham Estate, Diana Spencer, struggling with her mental health, decides to end a decade-long marriage to Prince Charles. Now, I don't tend to love biopics. I quite actively dislike the monarchy, and yet I love this film. I'm aware going in that there's an understandable fatigue around media depicting Diana. I'm right there with you. But in the hands of Pablo Larraín, I have to admit, I was quietly confident, and my boy did not disappoint. Because, and hear me out, I think in a way this film actually has relatively little to do with the documented specificities of Diana's life, and instead is more concerned with the institution of royalty and its relationship to outsiders across history. In the opening titles, the film brands itself as a fable from a true tragedy, and to me, it totally delivered on that premise. Empathizing deeply with her position and what she represents, more so than a blow-by-blow of her life and death. The film focuses very much on character over plot, creating these touching moments full of intimacy that start to unfold into an almost psychological horror, delving into the inner turmoil created by this wider, infallible system. And the end result is this subversive, speculative, surreal, very human and emotionally in-depth exploration of a woman at the center of this tornado of controversy. All of which could only work with an assured central performance, and, well, the year is 2022, and it would appear that every film bro has become a die-hard Kristen Stewart fan, which I'm all for. Because yeah, she's just incredible and brings such humanity to the character. Timothy Spall is unsurprisingly pitch perfect. Every moment Sally Hawkins is on screen, the film is better for it. Stella Gonne as Queen Elizabeth is used sparingly but effectively. And once again, Johnny Greenwood elevates everything with his surreal, unsettling score. Big year for JG. The film's approach, understandably, unsurprisingly, divided people, but nah, I was totally into it. Love the direction. I think it would make a perfect double feature with his earlier film Jackie. In fact, I hope he gets to make a culturally revered woman at the center of a historical tragedy trilogy. Sign me up. Right, honestly, forget everything I've just said. We're into the top 5 now. I was only humouring you before. This is the good shit. So, taking that number 5 spot, we have Tatan. And you know what? The less you know going in, the better. Back in 2017, when talking about Raw, I mentioned that it was baffling to me that this is a feature debut from writer-director Julia Ducournau. I'm now massively excited to follow her career in whatever it is she does next. Well, she's now made her second film, and right out the gate just won the Palme d'Or. Once again creating one of the coolest, most shocking, stylish, sexual, provocative, thoughtful, violent, exciting films of the year, accelerating full throttle into a ludicrous, disturbing body horror that under layers and layers of depravity manages to arrive at this oddly wholesome story about gender, romance, found family, and unconditional love. So fucking good. In terms of pure consistency, she is right up there for me as one of the boldest, most exciting new filmmakers working today. Tatan is a wild ride, and I, again, find myself so excited for whatever she does next. Okay, on to number 4, The Worst Person in the World. Told across 12 chapters, a prologue and an epilogue, this film chronicles 4 years in the life of Yulia, a young woman who navigates the troubled waters of her love life and career path, leading her to take an introspective look at who she really is. I absolutely love this film. More specifically, I absolutely love this character. She's written with a real emotional honesty, flawed and layered and complex, but ultimately, I really put it down to the perfect casting. Martin Scorsese says that casting is 85 to 90% of the picture, and this film is such a good example of that. Because don't get me wrong, the screenplay is so well characterized, structured, and paced, but Renate Reinsve just brings this extra layer of nuance, understanding, and likability to the character, to the point where I can't picture this film with anyone but her at the center of it. The Worst Person in the World is just so detailed, authentic, and soulful, jumping from grounded, understated dialogue scenes to these vibrant, playful sequences where direction totally takes over. It was an absolute treat. I laughed, I cried, I loved it. On to the top three, and honestly, any of these could happily have been my number one. But at number three, we have The Humans. Adapted from his own Tony Award-winning play, The Humans sees three generations of family gather in a downtown Manhattan apartment to celebrate Thanksgiving. I was just blown away by this film. It really rattled me. It's got this incredibly unique tone played with such true-to-life honesty, authentically and often undramatically shifting from heartwarming to soul-crushing on the spin of a dime, which then filmically translates into these seamless genre shifts from comedy to drama to tragedy to almost horror, then back to comedy. It's constantly subverting and shifting. You never really know where the film's heading next, and yet it feels so organic and effortless. It's a real magic trick. All the discipline of a stage play adapted to the screen with a rich understanding for cinematic language. It's funny, beautiful, terrifying, full of distinctive imagery. It's moving and thoughtful. Every single cast member, Jane Houdyshell, Richard Jenkins, Beanie Feldstein, Amy Schumer, Stephen Young, and June Squibb each have a moment to shine, each bringing a different flavour to this honest swing at trying to express the quiet beauty and crushing pain of existence. Yeah, very, very good movie, and one that went pretty under the radar. I believe it's now on Netflix, so I highly recommend giving it a spin. And if your hunger for feature debuts that take an existential dive into family dynamics, primarily explored in real time in one claustrophobic location, isn't quite fulfilled, perhaps you could check out my number two pick, Mass. Two couples meet for a painful and raw conversation in the aftermath of a violent tragedy. So first off, for me, this was the best screenplay and ensemble cast of the year, hands down, with some of the most in-depth, raw writing I've experienced in years. It really felt like nothing was off the table in terms of where this film was willing to go. It dives into the complexity of guilt, living with regret, fear, and anger, and I was really shaken by it. It really affected me. Despite being set almost entirely in one room, it was such an utterly engaging film. Not a second went by that didn't feel thoughtful, purposeful, and well utilised. And given the film's low budget, it's such a stark reminder that ultimately you don't need anything but characters to interact and be emotionally honest for something to be deeply engaging. It's an unsettling, difficult, but beautiful film. I was so impressed by it. It felt truly therapeutic and cathartic to go to the places this film explores, meet it there, walk through those emotions, and come out the other side better for it. As far as I'm concerned, Martha Plimpton, Ann Dowd, Jason Isaacs, and Reed Birney could have deservedly won all 4 acting Oscars this year. Watching Mass honestly hurt my chest. I just thought it was incredible. Which brings us to the number 1 spot, and it seems that perhaps the optimist in me has somehow won out this year, because my number 1 pick for 2021 is the absolutely delightful Come On, Come On. A radio journalist is completing a documentary in which he interviews a variety of kids about their thoughts and concerns on life and the future. However, when his sister asks him to look after her son, he embarks on a cross-country trip with his nephew. Come On is a big, warm, much-needed hug of a movie. Through the conversations between Joaquin Phoenix and Woody Norman, the film gently wanders down a number of existential roads, doing so with real kindness, compassion, and curiosity. It feels very light and easy to enjoy, and yet it doesn't shy away from the pain, frustration, and fear, all held in very safe hands. I also loved following the documentary he was making, comprised of real conversations with real kids. It was like having a bonus documentary short snuck into the film itself. So beautifully well executed, quietly profound and comforting. It left me a teary mess. Damn this movie. An absolutely delightful watch. It affected me more than anything else this year. I was just so sucked in. I loved every second, a little glimmer of something in an ocean of this. But there we go, art is objective, so could those more informed than me please correct my list in the comments below. Thank you for watching, hope you're as okay as you can be. Life is short, do your best, have fun, good luck, goodbye.